Well, it's officially good afternoon. I'm Dawn Olson. I am the president of the Board of Trustees, and it is my pleasure to introduce Rachel Maxwell from Stewardship for Us. Rachel is a stewardship consultant who brings communities together to finance the things that they value most. With that in mind, your board has been working for several months to provide Rachel information about our congregation, including our history, our mission, covenant, our bylaws, operating budgets, endowment funds, and our activities. Over the past several days, she has met with the minister, the Board of Trustees, the staff, RE, and our various committees to further understand us and what we value. I've been very impressed with all the conversations, and I'm excited to hear what Rachel has to say. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dawn. It's been a delight to be among you during this time, and I am so grateful for that delicious lunch. I'm grateful for the lunch that the RE people provided for me yesterday. I'm grateful for the dinner. Maybe the dinner. The board did a potluck with me on Friday night, and I really think it was the best potluck I have ever had with a board. So thank you. Thank you, and thank you all for being here. Those of you online, I don't know where the camera is, as well as those in the hall today. It is a great pleasure to be here. So I have some opening words. Tom, maybe you can go to the second slide. And these are the words of Alberto Rios, who is he was for a while anyway, the poet laureate of Arizona, and just a phenomenal man and poet. When giving is all we have. One river gives its journey to the next. We give because someone gave to us. We give because nobody gave to us. We give because giving has changed us. We give because giving could have changed us. We have been better for it. We have been wounded by it. Giving has many faces. It is loud and quiet. Big, though small, diamond in wood nails. Its story is old, the plot worn, and the pages too, but we read this book anyway. Over and again, giving is first and every time, hand to hand, mine to yours, yours to mine. You gave me blue, and I gave you yellow. Together, we made simple green. You gave me what you did not have, and I gave you what I had to give. Together, we made something greater from the difference. So I am Rachel, as Dawn told you much about me, but I will share that I hail from Edmonds, Washington, on the beautiful Salish Sea, a land that has been inhabited since time immemorial by the Coast Salish peoples, and we live and learn from them every day. I'm an MBA and a founder of a community funding platform that was an online crowdsourced zero-interest lending platform. It helped people have a different relationship with their money when they made generous, high-risk loans. And I am a member of the Stewardship for Us team, which is a group of independent consultants that work with Unitarian Universalist congregations across the country. We are all UUs, and we are endorsed by the Unitarian Universalist Association, but we are not employees of the UUA. So I am here because I was invited by your board to advise you on your budgeting, on your recent, what to do about your recent bequest, and to think about what it is that, I don't know, is needed. What's the rod? It was so beautiful, like the sermon today about beingness. At least that's how I thought about it. Your beingness is what is most important. So a next steps process is one where I do all the things that Dawn said. I review your history, your finances, your activities, all sorts of things about you in advance. And then I come on site and I meet with your minister and your board and many of you who are in sort of congregational life in various capacities. And then I make this presentation, and then in 2 weeks I'll send a slightly more detailed report in writing. Your mission is to deepen connections, can you say it with me? By nurturing spiritual growth, practicing justice, and inspiring joy. Amen. So I sent out a survey which was completed by an astonishing 68 people, which is an amazing percentage of the congregation in my experience with these surveys, to have like over 30% of your people finishing that survey is a big old plus. If you didn't do it, feel free to do it now. I will be delivering the final results of it in my written report. But I asked, what do you think your 3 greatest strengths are? And you said, with a big, resounding, loud 51 votes, minister and staff. Woo! Yes, I felt that this weekend. And then you also, like Sunday services and worship, you feel that's a strength, your community, your people, and your social justice programs. Your top challenges that you chose that are for, like the question asks, what are your top challenges to address in the next 5 years? You were a little closer on those. Those top ones were congregational engagement, membership growth, lay leader, and volunteer growth. They're all kind of pieces of the same puzzle, right? And then program funding was a sort of distant fourth. So I just wanted to pause and bring you back to what it is that is your mission, because this is how you meet your challenges. You have a beautiful mission. And the more you live this mission, the more you are going to be able to do the things you want to do to meet the challenges, to deepening connections, nurturing spiritual growth, practicing joy, practicing justice, and inspiring joy is really, that's it. That's the work you got in front of you. So what do you think your top priorities are? They are congregational engagement, by far your top choice there. And then social justice and community outreach, membership growth, and Sunday services are things that you feel are your absolute top priorities going forward. So this is a little pause. We're going to take a little pause to make a commercial break, which is, do you want to make an impact today? Do you want to do something quick? I used to have a co-worker. He was a co-founder of the platform, and he used to say, small wins, Rachel. Look for small wins. Here's a small win. Learn the name of a child in the congregation that you didn't already know. So a new name of a child. And then greet the child the next time you see them. Greet them by name. Hi, Rachel. Good to see you today. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Ask them how they're doing. And then ask yourself, how many mission points did you just accomplish? And then repeat it with an adult you don't already know. Okay, small wins. Small wins, everybody. You, each and every one of you can do this. Back to my report. So I'm a total numbers person. I have an MBA. My spouse and I ran a advanced analytics company for a long time, consulting firm. I love numbers. So what are your numbers? Your sort of core numbers. You have 197 members with 130 pledging households. This is as reported to the UUA in either January or February of this year. So your pledging income, so this is slightly different from pledges maybe, is $283,689, and your annual operating expenditures, so this is probably what you actually spent rather than your budget, I'm guessing, is $307,116. You reported $452,719 in debt the day that you made that report. And you reported that your endowment was valued at $1,316,434. Now, all of those numbers have changed a bit since then, but this is what you reported to the UUA, and in all the numbers I got, very accurately. So sometimes I get numbers that are really different from what was reported to the UUA, and then we have a whole other problem. So I also look at your pledging. Here is a chart of your pledging distribution. So I like to take the total number of pledges, your $283,000 worth of pledges, divide that by 4, and then figure out all the households in each of those quartiles. So each of those quartiles was about $71,000. And if I list all the pledges in order of size, the quartile that I call first is has 5 households in it, and their pledges range from $8,400 to $24,000. The second quartile has 12 households, and those pledges range from $4,800 to $7,600. And the third quartile has 23 households. Those pledges range from $2,000 to $4,500. And the fourth quartile has 81 households, and those are pledges from $0 to $2,000. So, and if you look at the right-hand column that has the percentage of contributing households, I just realized that I haven't told Tom when to advance slides, so I'm hoping he's doing an okay job of it. 4%, 10%, 19%, 67%, there's nothing alarming about this. Sometimes I'll see slightly different numbers, but what I like to see is kind of it being an 80-20 with the first 2 quartiles and the last 2 quartiles. So this isn't quite that, but not alarmingly not that also. It's on the left, total pledges, 283,689. Oh, I'm sorry. It's also on the left at the bottom, 121. Okay, now I had put 130 on the page before, so there's a gap. Maybe people left, died, I don't know. Because sometimes the list that I get is a little different from what was reported a little bunch of months before to the UUA, and that is fine. Neither here nor there from my point of view. Your average pledge size is $2,345, and your median pledge is $1,300. And those seem okay to me. They're neither here nor there from my point of view, meaning you look perfectly healthy. The pledge at the 80th percentile is something that I like to lift up because, as Dan Hotchkiss, who is a a sort of governance guru in the Unitarian world and other congregational worlds, says that the 80th percentile pledge is often a good reflection of the giving habits of households with typical resources and high commitment. And yours is $3,600, your 80th percentile pledge. So that's like, if I line all the pledges up and I look at 80% of them, what's the top one in the bottom 80%? How's that for how to describe it? And that's also healthy. Yay. You're not like extraordinarily high on pledging, so there's room, but nor are you real low so that I'm worrying that you're not doing anything, that there's something going wrong. Now, I thought you would like to see, because I'm a numbers person, you know, over time, what has this looked like? So this is from 2008 to 2023, what your membership and your pledging households look like. From my point of view, in some ways, the pledging households is the more important number, because that is showing who is actively engaged. You had a little bump in 2017. I have identified that as the Trump bump. So that's likely to be that. I don't actually know that, but you don't have anything in your history that says anything else. So you didn't hold on to a lot of those people, which is sort of too bad. But here you are, and there is nothing alarming about this. It's a little distressing that your last year, just this, I guess it's 2023 fiscal year, saw a big drop in pledging households. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that, and given our moment and time and the fact that you didn't actually have really big drops a lot the prior 2 years, like this has been a devastating time for congregations across the board in the pandemic, this being the pandemic. The last 3+ years have been horrific. And the first one was, when you got numbers of pledging households was 2020. So that was you, if you ran your spring campaign right then, depending on timing. Anyway, nothing alarming to me here. You have pretty stable membership is what this looks like to me. I mean, while you look at it and see it goes up and down, I think, well, that really means you're a congregation of about 200+ people. So here's your operating expenditures on the top, the red line, meaning the money out, and the green line is the money coming in from pledging. So this is pledging only, no fundraisers, no gifts from the endowment, no nothing else, just the pledges. So this looks great to me because you are narrowing that gap. Like, wow. Right now, it's a very narrow gap. So that actually, one of the reasons I was brought here was because of your deep concern about deficit budgeting. So this to me is like, I don't quite get the problem. I see other things from other congregations that look a lot different from this that are not as healthy. So that's just so you know. I love comparisons. Very few of my colleagues do this, but I look at you as compared to other congregations. So of the 67 UU congregations across the state of California, you are 16th in number of members and 17th in number of pledging households. So that's basically the same thing. You are 26th in the size of your annual operating expenses, 23rd in your amount of pledging income, and 12th in the size of your endowment. And then if we look just at congregations that are more or less your size in the whole of the UUA, so there's 143 congregations with between 150 and 250 members. You are 72nd, so right smack in the middle in number of members, and 86th in total annual operating expenses, 65th in annual pledging income, 59th in number of pledging households, and 29th in size of endowments. So what does this mean to me? It means nothing very interesting or alarming or exciting for that matter. It says your expenses are a little lower and you have a little bit higher pledging per member maybe, and a little higher endowment than is usual for your size. But it's only a little, so it doesn't matter. Oops. So what did I see when I came here? This is a wonderful location and campus. Like, you have a great central location here in San Luis Obispo. Usually I go to cities this size or college towns like yours, and I drive miles out of town to get to the UU congregation. You have a remarkable minister whom you love. Yay! You have a dedicated and creative staff. You have transformative ministries to the houseless and food insecure people in your community. You are amazing. And you have an openness. And this was really noticeable to me. You have an openness to new ways of doing and thinking. I don't usually run into boards that are open in that way. And I felt that. You have a solid asset base. Like, you have this land and you have like I don't know where it is, but extra. You have extra. For a downtown location, you know, I mean, when I visit congregations that are in little cities and they have a downtown location, they're always scrambling for land. You have held strong during the pandemic. And not only that, you actually launched new initiatives that have been transformative to yourselves and the community. Wow. So I celebrate, rejoice. So what are your challenges? So you have concerns about your finances. You're worried. Part of that I sort of look at as we all worry, and we worry about finances. And not only that, in this situation, you got this big bequest that is all of a sudden sort of an embarrassment of riches, as my grandmother would have put it. So that makes you more nervous, frankly, because now you have reserves that you could, like that, if you'll excuse me, really small budget gap. If you could fill it with the endowment and then it might be frittered away. So yeah, don't do that. Don't fritter it away. I have some recommendations around that I'll get to, and your old structures don't feel right. That I've noticed that in all the meetings that I had. You're not comfortable quite with the structures you have that are maybe not serving. Membership needs attention, meaning both internal membership, like stirring yourselves up, but also new people walking through your doors. You need to be attentive, because right now is a liminal time and new people are coming through the doors of our congregations. And one of my observations about that in congregation after congregation is many of those new people are younger than the new people who used to come through our doors. And I believe, and this is just Rachel conjecture, but I believe that families and young people, young adults, young meaning like under 45, need an intergenerational community that shares their values. And we have that. So we have to find ways, and it is not easy to find ways to understand how to help and serve these families, these young people who are our future. We need to figure it out, though, and we'll have some suggestions about that. And you need some volunteers, and you are in the same boat with everybody else. We all went home and we went like this in our homes, and we didn't do a lot because it was terrifying, and how the heck could you do anything? And now we're kind of used to that. And it's still unnerving to be out there, and maybe we're more concerned about our time in different ways. So everyone's struggling with this problem. Everyone meaning congregations across the country and across sizes and across everything. So I saw nothing alarming, meaning I saw lots of volunteers this weekend. I saw lots of people working hard, people who have been leading during the course of the pandemic are mighty tired because they held a heavy burden. And so they're ready to step out of the way a little bit. And where's the next people are hard to find. So that's just real. And I want to hold that in my heart. I don't have like stories yet of success because no one's gotten further than you are. So what are some next steps? So next steps are, this looks so boring. I look at this and I'm like, create a 5-year strategic financial plan. And so what that involves is creating a vision. And that's probably the most important thing you need to do, even though it doesn't get the big print here, is to figure out what are your goals for the next 5 years collectively. Not just the board, not just the leadership. Who do you want to be in this community? And how do you want to be it? Like just what Reverend Rod was asking this morning. Who do you want to be and how do you want to be that? How is it going to manifest here at UU SLO? So you do that and then you can develop a set of goals. And then you create initiatives to meet those goals because you can always have the goal, like we would like to increase our membership by 5% a year. Nice goal. Are you going to do it? No, unless you do something different. So that's where the initiatives are, because the past is like the best indicator of the future, meaning if you do nothing, you will get nothing. So you have to do things in order. And that means another thing that I swear he like designed the sermon this morning for me. That means you have to take risks. And I want to point out to you that no matter what you decide to do, is it sit tight or is it what you would call taking a risk? You are taking a risk. Right now, the status quo is a big, fat risk because the world, A, has changed, and B, is changing rapidly. So that second base is really moving, and you have no clue where it's going, like really very little. And that's challenging and frightening and all of those things. So some of these initiatives you decide to take on, to put your resources towards, some of them will fail. And you know what? That's okay. The idea is this is where my entrepreneurial business thing, I want to just teach people what I learned. You cannot move forward without trying things you don't know the outcomes of. And so you have to try things and you have to evaluate them and you have to be willing to say, well, that one didn't work. Too bad we sunk all that money into it. And then sink some money into the next thing. Awfully hard to do, but I think you actually can do that. So, and then I want you to put together a plan for membership development. You need that. You are here in SLO, San Luis Obispo. This is a place that needs you. So you have to be paying attention to the people walking through the door and serving each other. So developing internally people into places they want to be. And then I think you need to review your procedures some for particularly, I noticed I sat with the financially people in your financial planning and decision-making and budget creation. And like, it doesn't feel comfortable. It's kind of one of those challenges that I talked about. You have some discomfort around what the current way of doing things is. That says to me, okay, let's look at what might be a good way to do it. It's not actually rocket science. You'll be able to figure out a way, and I can help guide that, or you can use people internally to do that work. So the board had 3 goals that they articulated to me, and last night when I was working on this presentation, I didn't put these in, and then I thought, wait a minute, I got to address the questions directly. So let me do that. Question number 1, or goal number 1 from the board, was create a balanced budget that meets the needs of a thriving congregation and end deficit budgets. So my recommendation is don't worry about this so much. You don't have that big a budget deficit. You can worry about it a little, but don't make this your number 1 thing. You have bigger fish to fry here. You have strong reserves and a good endowment. I have spoken to many congregations who have depleted their reserves completely. You are not there. So you can afford some deficit spending right now, but you want to do it intentionally. So you want to create that plan so that you understand why it is you have a deficit budget. Because you're doing X, Y, and Z. It's not just to keep the status quo. And of course, you should make a 5-year financial plan that will allow you to see the end of the deficit budgeting. Goal number 2 was to create a financial plan for the generous bequests residing in the endowment fund. So I think, we're talking primarily about the fact that in the UUA thing, the year before, your endowment was listed at about $1 million less than this year. So that's what we're talking about, is you've got you received bequests that added up to a lot of money. And maybe you don't want to grow money with it. Now, maybe you do want to grow money with it. So there are a lot of different ways to use bequests. And your congregation's bylaws mean that that bequest was put into your endowment. The endowment has a little set of rules about how it's used, and that you get 4 or 5% of the endowment each year in order to be able to use those funds. But you also can, as a congregation, decide to do something else. So you apparently did that last year with, I think, some of money from the endowment bequest to use it for something else. And it's a congregational process that requires a supermajority, all very appropriate. That it would be a difficult process and that it would require a supermajority of the congregation to make a determination to use a large sum from the bequest to do something or some set of somethings. But you are able to do that, and not every endowment has that flexibility. So I commend you on that flexibility, and I really think that sometimes bigger endowments can make people really uncomfortable, and some people in the congregation kind of annoyed if it is determined not to use the corpus of the funds. So a congregational process where you can talk to each other about it is important. So you need to have a way to talk to each other about this great gift and about your assets, frankly, in general. So that is my recommendation, is to have a congregational process around this where everyone has an opportunity. They may not choose to do so, but everyone has an opportunity to weigh in. So the third goal was to determine next steps the congregation should take to fulfill its mission in the current environment. So I really think your next step is to think, who are you? Who do you want to be? How do you want to be? This visioning, if I often call it a visioning process, you could call it a goal setting process. I don't care about the language that much. What I care about is that you collectively come together and think about it, meaning you actually give it time and energy, because the world has changed. And that's why you're feeling that, like, where the heck is second base? So do this before you answer questions 1 and 2. This is number 1. And then you'll be able to see much more clearly answers to 2 and 3. So I was really impressed with your mission and how alive it was to me. And so I wanted to share with you, and by the way, can you just smell that, the jasmine? Like, what heaven. These are things people said to me over the course of the weekend. And I just pinned them to your mission. Deepening connections. My experience here has opened my eyes to the real situation of homeless people. I have developed empathy. Nurturing spiritual growth. Before I came here, I didn't appreciate the power of love. Practicing justice. We need to talk to the people who are going to be most affected by our actions before we make decisions. Inspiring joy. You have to watch this video of Martin. And I thought about asking Donna to give me the video so I could show it to you, because he was saying, or trying to say, Unitarian Universalist, which is just anyway, it was adorable. Back at the Practicing Justice, just this remark was about talking to the younger people about what should be done, because they are the future. They are the stakeholders for what decisions you make when you create a vision. And this form of practicing justice is vital in all that you do. I'm sure the showering thing came because there were people who clearly wanted that, right? Who were like, where the heck do I take a shower? You always want to talk to people most affected, and the people most affected by the future are the younger people. So my closing words to you, and I'll take questions afterwards, but is a poem by the Reverend Teresa Soto from her book, Spilling the Light, a Skinner book. Everything is still on fire, despite your best efforts. In addition to living, it is clear that fire or not, you must level up in what it means to thrive. Right now, that means wrestling with the truth that, in fact, everything is not all your fault. I'm sorry that everything is still on fire. Once hate catches, the winds of not my problem blow, and the blaze is hard to stop. But hard is not impossible. Not yet is different than never. You in community have an answer. You have a response to systems of power and control and the cost of suffering. You and your community together are the answer. You are not only a people of flame, but also a people of cold, clear truth. You know both where you fall short and where you flourish, and where you still reach. Everything is still on fire, but all is not lost. You remain more nimble than steadfast, more unshakable than swayed by the latest rage. You are here to put out the ravenous flames and heal the world. Enough is enough. So thank you. Thank you for all you are and all you do. Your being is beautiful, and I am grateful that you are here. Questions? And I'll just repeat them into the mic so people, oh, Tom has mics. Yes, online people, if you put questions in the chat, I believe someone will look for them and I will be able to answer them. Or Tom says we could have people in the congregation ask them, but somebody's going to pick up your question in order for us to be able to hear it. Let's start with Deborah.
I'm just the microphone.
Oh, you're the microphone person. Then in the back, let's start with someone in the house and then we'll pick up a question online.
I have a question because I like numbers too. I'm a planner by training, and I'm always interested in demographics. And most congregations, or many, whether they're Unitarian or otherwise, are sort of top-heavy and older people, as you know. And you did emphasize the future being younger people, which is true. How do we compare in our demographics, if you know them, to some of the other congregations that you've looked at?
You don't look older or younger. And unfortunately, I don't have like numbers around that. So I honestly, it's a like looking around kind of thing for me. So that is my sense is, yeah, you have lots of older people, but everybody has lots and lots of older people. Older people are also, many congregations worry like heck about the fact that it's the older people who are giving the most. That is the case everywhere. You could worry about that, or you could develop people over the period of time so that I know that in my own giving, it changed dramatically over the 25 years that I was a member of my congregation, where I started out with like, maybe it's like a gym membership. And then some year when I could look up from child rearing, I thought, oh my God, we're only giving that much? Let's double the pledge this year. And then the next year I did it again. And so doubled my pledge because things change over the course of one's lifespan. A lot. That's what I've noticed. No one's quite ready on Zoom. So anybody else? No one has questions? Come on, come on. Sure you do. I see one.
You spoke a couple times, Rachel, about congregational process. And a lot of us have been members for a long time and been through things like imagining our future and cottage conversations and some of the other things that we've done. But when it comes to a congregational process for putting our attention on membership and for visioning, what kinds of examples do you have for us about how that's done and done well?
Yeah, so I actually, it's so interesting you mentioned so many of us have been through this before. Yes. And now you are going to go through it again. So depending on how you want it, so there's a variety of ways it can look. These days, I have been working with congregations on two different ways. If congregations don't have the energy to do cottage meetings, I have worked with congregations in providing essentially a two-pronged approach, one online, one in person, where we do a meeting approach where people get to talk to each other in small groups. You're presented essentially with 3 different questions and 3 different times to go through these. And those questions are going to lead to things that are priorities, goals, initiatives, responses for the congregation. And that way they get aggregated and people have an opportunity to sort of weigh in on, like, I like this one, but they're ultimately then they're put together either by a task force or a group that is essentially from many different stakeholder groups in the congregation in order to aggregate those and make a recommendation to the way I've recommended, but some congregations have wanted to do it differently, has been to the board, and then the board brings them to the congregation. But some congregations have wanted the task force to bring it directly to the congregation. So it really depends on your own process, but it can be as minimal, if you will, as just 2 to 3 hour meetings.
You spoke about membership in terms of what we do when people walk through the door. And I think many of us have a handle on that, she says with a biased opinion. And we're working on it. But my question is, what about people who don't walk through the door? Is there... Okay, I didn't know whether you were answering that on. I mean, are there some proven strategies to do that?
So engaging the online audience and your online congregation and making them whole with the whole is complex, but yes, there are some strategies for how to do that. You're doing some of them already, but often it means understanding that each technology, if you will, has different advantages and disadvantages, and using the technologies in ways that will work. In other words, not trying to do everything with both, but not only doing the things that are single, one thing, one platform in person. Because many people have a tendency to think the in-person is the thing, and that therefore we should try to get the people who are online to come in person. And that isn't necessarily the case, but that means that meetings, so if you want to engage people who are online members in the governance and the leadership in the church, you have to understand that maybe some of the ways that you meet shouldn't all be in person and have that person, like the 1 or 2 who are online, be the odd people out. Instead, you should have online meetings. So there's a lot of different ways to approach this. And I think there are a lot of things for Sunday morning that are suggestions around ways that the minister and the lay leader people who are doing Sunday morning can talk to the people online. I'm not convinced by the like show the people online to the people here, because those people are not having that experience. It's like, and you can't talk to them. So it's a little, I don't know though. Jury's out on how this is going to work best, but those are just some thoughts. And you definitely have the right idea in that you have a congregation online. You have people who are members. You must understand that those people need to be brought in to the leadership and introduced and known to you. It's kind of like talking to the kids. Those of us who only like to be in person need to sometimes stretch ourselves and go to the like coffee hour online and meet the people who go there. Nope. It sounds like it's on.
How about
there.
now?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, good. So the way that I understood, I appreciated your answer, but the way I understood Andrea's question was, how do we get people here who aren't here? So I'm a member since 2008, and I came here because in 2008 there was like something really pretty bad happening in our state, Prop 8 and everything, and that's when I came here and started listening to what the message was and who the people were, and and found I love the people here. So thank you. So I guess my question is, I worked in this town for 20 years, and there were 20 people that I knew from work that should have been here because, gosh darn it, those guys were UUs. And there are people downtown that are working in, the shops and stuff down.
We just lost you.
There are a lot of people downtown in the shops downtown that should be here because, those people are like, oh, like, I didn't know I was a UU. Those people who walk in the door and they're like, gosh, dang it, I didn't even know. I've been a UU my whole life. Why have I not been here? So I think the question is, and one thing I miss about this community, because I haven't been here for a while though, is we've lost a lot of people, So the question is, how, I appreciate all the people that are here, and I join in online and I love it. But the question is for me sort of like, how do you get those people? How do you get those people who are downtown and are like, these are all great ideas and we should come join you. How do you find those people,
So you have to, the simple and not very satisfying answer to that is stop hiding your light under a bushel, meaning that marketing matters, actually, and that investing in marketing might be one of those initiatives. I had one congregation that was tiny, much smaller than yours this year, that was asking the same kind of question. And we had a design session and people were thinking up ideas for how to do this. And one of the ideas I really loved was to 7 principles. They hadn't adopted the 8th principle yet, but principles bomb the town, meaning they would literally make little like Xerox, I show my age, mimeographed, how about that for age? The principles with like the URL and the name of the congregation on it and an invitation, and post those in like on bulletin boards all over town. And I thought, oh my God, that's brilliant. because it's a small town, and anyway, the point being, I believe you should invest in marketing, and in order to have people know that you exist and what it is that are our values that people might share. There are a lot of different ways to do that, but it all takes resources, either and resources of time and money. And I recommend going out and putting some resources in place. Tom.
I've got a question online here real quick, if we can, before we do another in-person.
Yeah.
Alice Reinheimer wants to know, do you have any ideas for inspiring fresh volunteers to step up?
So my idea is to engage people in the process of deciding what it is they're stepping up for. So that just filling holes that are old holes that need filling doesn't work. And often what you need to do is engage people in having the idea, and then all us longer term members need to support those like, oh my God, we tried that, it didn't work. Don't say that. Now is the time to say yes. And it's the time to say yes when someone asks you to do something, and it's the time to say yes when someone has an idea that they want to move forward, instead of saying, not so sure. And I know that's risky, but I highly recommend yes, yes, yes. You're still not mic'd.
Hello, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm president of a nonprofit. Some people here know what that nonprofit is. It's not really material, but I want to talk about a firsthand experience. And that is that our nonprofit every 2 weeks participates in the Slow Downtown Farmers Market. And it's a great way to do public outreach. And I see lots of both mainline churches and
Oops, we lost you again. So he's talking about the fact that he sees other churches, and even the atheists at the downtown market.
Anyway, I'm saying that really one of the things we should consider doing as a fellowship is to rent a booth. It's $55 per session. It's a very inexpensive way, and as we move towards sunnier, warmer, drier days, we're going to have lots of foot traffic. So I just want to put that out as an idea for UU Slow.
Great idea. Great idea.
So I just want to hold up that almost every new person that we have had in the last several months comes here and often says, I saw your banner, Black Lives Matter, and I wondered who you were. What is this place? Because there's not another Black Lives Matter banner on any church in this county. And I tried to share our banner with some progressive Christian churches, folks who I know dearly, and they didn't want to hang it. So, okay, so that's just one banner. Our signage sucks, except for South Street. And we're in a great location, but it's very busy traffic-wise. It's hard to see our building in different parts. It's facing odd ways. However, we have talked about hanging more kinds of banners for affiliate groups, that is to say, LGBT awareness and, all of that inside the building, so that we're surrounded by our values, and something at our entries or outside in some ways. So that's one thing a number of us on the 8th Principal team have been talking about. And the other thing is that Douglas and I and Alice are trying to come up right now with something to hand out in a situation like farmers market. what is it that we could give? Is it a pen with our name on it? Is it a button? Is it a bookmark? Is it a photo? You know, what is it? And so we are open to ideas on what and we need this by sooner than later, but by Pride. And Pride this year is going to be almost a week long. There's going to be the first parade in 27 years or 28 years of Pride. And we have had a booth at Pride ever since 1997, the very first Pride. So we are there. We want to be there, and we want to see people like you guys and us in the booth talking to people. You know, I don't know. Anyway, that's
Beautiful.
enough.
That's great. Yes. See how many ideas you have? Now the way to do next is like, how do you put them in place? And that is important, to have a process that is fairly simple and straightforward for making ideas happen.
I want to say that the food share was an idea that took off, and it's working in this community of San Luis Obispo, getting our name out. There's a small number of people who participate in it, and we're very thankful for all of us that do. And there's a population that comes every Wednesday to this location, the same population, but they're not here on Sundays. Many children are being serviced, and the food insecure children are getting to eat because of the generosity of this fellowship. And I believe there's an untapped desire of all of you sitting here, not only to help adults, but to help children. And that Rachel gave you the first key, and that is everyone here, when we say Martin, we all know who he is, because I'm his parent and I'm pretty visible here, and he comes often. But the rest of the children that come, you may know Aoife, you may know Ansel, you may know the Joyce children because they come on occasion. But those are the families that you're looking for. The families of the people we feed that are unhoused, the families of people that we shower, and the families of people that come through the door. And I really honestly believe, what can you do right now, right today? I know the heart of this congregation. I've raised 3 kids in this congregation, and now 1 more. Show it to those children. Show it to those families. When you're out and about and you see a nice young family that you're interacting with, talk about your experience on Sundays. Talk about the religious exploration. I'm taking our youth right now out into the greater congregation, and we're doing crossing paths. We're going to go to an iftar dinner in April, on April Fool's Day, with the mosque. Reverend Rod's going to come with us. We're going to bring our youth, your youth, are going to bring desserts, because we don't know how to make traditional iftar meals. And we're going to share that ceremony with them in our learning process. Join us. Don't just let us go by ourselves. Don't let Rod be the only guy in the mosque on the brother side while I'm on the sister side with the girls. Join us. Let your light shine in the community, because that's how this will grow. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Anything else? Other questions, thoughts? Wonderful ideas. You can make all 3 of those things people have talked about happen relatively easily. So I recommend you do that. And I will be sending a written report with a little more detail about my recommendations to your board. And I assume they'll make this deck will go in your direction and should be available to everybody. Thank you.
work and what you have brought us. We can close with one of my favorite readings from the hymnal by Anonymous. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but we are connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this congregation, and to each other. Thank you for the inspiration and the direction and the enthusiasm of the work that you bring to congregations. Then thank you all for being here and for participating.